gentlemen, here it is, the new Porsche Taycan, just launched here at the new Porsche Center, Ara Damansara. Now this is the Taycan Turbo, which is actually the mid-range variant. The Taycan is now available in Malaysia as 3 variants, the 4S, the Turbo and the Turbo S. This is the mid-range model, which has over 400 kilometers worth of range. Actually, all the models have over 400 kilometers worth of range, but this of course has a slightly bigger battery pack compared to the 4S, which does 407 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken, on the WLTP cycle. So the Taycan is actually a very important car for Porsche because this is Porsche's first all-electric series production model. And more importantly, in the Malaysian market, this is now also the first EV to offer this much range. With the range starting with 407 kilometers on a full battery, this is now the longest running, or the EV with the longest distance available based on battery power alone. And more importantly, the charging for this car is equally fast. But we'll get to that a little bit later. So let's talk about the Taycan Turbo. So as I said earlier, this is Porsche's first all-electric series production car, and as you can see, that new powertrain has influenced the design massively. So at the front you have a very aerodynamic face with only a little slit on the side there for brake cooling, and on the front you just have a couple of radiators again to help cool the battery. And as you move down the side, you take a look at these massive 21-inch alloy wheels. The design of these were actually inspired by the Mission E. And as you can see, they look absolutely stunning, especially against this dark blue finish for this car. Now, behind it, you can see the charge port, which is actually one of 2. So if I just flip this open, here you can see that you have the standard Type 2 charger, but you also have down here the additional ports for DC charging. So this car can actually be charged at a Porsche Center via their Porsche Turbo chargers, which do 175 kilowatts. This thing can actually be charged to 80% it can be charged full in a little over an hour, if I'm not mistaken, but more importantly, this car can now recharge at 100 kilometers in just 5 minutes via a Porsche Turbo charger. This is insane amounts of charging speed, which actually make this a practical proposition for day-to-day driving and even for longer distances. At the moment, Porsche Turbo charging is only available at the Porsche Center here in Ara Damansara, as well as the Porsche Center in Sungai Besi, as well as the Porsche Center in Penang. But very soon, they will be adding turbochargers to even more locations. Now, if we come to the back, you can actually see this full-width LED taillight, which just looks the business. As you can see here, the rear end of this car looks really pert and very purposeful, and this light bar, which is also seen in other models as seen by the KNS here, also with a full width light bar, you can actually see that in the back of this car as well, just to homogenize the fact that this is also a Porsche. It's distinguishable as a Porsche, it's recognizable as a Porsche. Now, even though this car is fully electric, with batteries and 2 motors, one in the back and one in the front, there is actually quite a lot of space in here. So if we open the electric tailgate, you can see that there is plenty of room in here for most of your stuff. You can easily do a weekend away, if not longer than that. You can fill this up, no problem whatsoever. It is a practical saloon proposition. Now let's just close the boot. And you can see once again the way it completes the rear end. Now if we go down to the side, you can see the haunches that sort of come up around the rear axle. Actually, if you look at this car, you can see it's got that very typical Porsche proportions with a longer front end and a very pert rear end. Now, despite the fact that it's got this very sloping roofline and it's actually not a very large car, there is plenty of room inside. If the doors were unlocked, which has suddenly changed, if I'm not mistaken, you have to press something to make it work. There we go. So stepping inside, you can actually see there's a decent amount of room. It is a strict 4-seater, unfortunately, but for 4 people back here, it is quite comfortable. If I just step inside, you can see that there's actually a decent amount of knee room, a decent amount of foot room. You can actually tuck the tips of your feet sort of underneath the seat. You even have controls here for the HVAC system, which is actually currently on. You have climate controls back here, so it's 4-zone climate control, and you can actually even adjust your fan speed and so on, just to ensure that you have optimum temperature at all times. And as I said earlier, you've got plenty of room here, and if I just flip the camera, you can see I have a decent amount of headroom here, even though we have the optional panoramic sunroof, which looks absolutely stunning. Unfortunately, this is not a sunroof that has a sun cover. There's no screen that goes over this, unfortunately. So if you're not a fan of the sun, then perhaps don't get this option in luck, because this is just going to be the way it is all the time. But let's take the opportunity now to take a look at the front. So I'll just step out for a moment. and move into the front seat, where you have there is so much to unpack with this car. So these cars all come with electric seats as standard, and this is actually an organic leather material upholstery. Now if I step inside, whoa, okay, somebody put this car in a drive position. Okay, now stepping in, you can see first, you have this new wraparound cockpit, which is actually a curved LCD display, which displays all of your relevant information here. You have also settings down here on the side. These are actually touch sensitive, yeah? So by pressing this, you can change the settings here, as you can see here. The car actually moves up and down based on your suspension setup. You can actually change the ride height here. This, I believe, is a selectable, customizable button. And on this side, you have all of your lighting setups and so on. Now moving to the center, you have even more screens. So this is your Porsche infotainment system, which is actually very, very good. It's very responsive, it's very fast, it loads up very quickly, very, very easy to use, and more importantly, you can see these lights here. This is actually proximity sensors. So when you leave the system, it will actually sort of minimize the look of it, but as your finger gets a little bit closer, it senses your fingers getting closer and it brings up more information as you need it. So for example, if I pull up navigation, you can see it takes up a lot of the screen, but the moment my hand comes a little bit closer, there will be options that pop up left and right. You can actually change all of the settings all here. Now, moving a bit further downward, you have a secondary screen here just for Hvac controls, and again, you can actually alter the way this looks. So for example, now we're in Hvac here, I can actually swipe this. Hang on, I haven't worked this out yet. Okay, so you can go to menu here, which pulls up even more details up here. And let's see, what else can we do down here? Let's see. Oh, there's haptic feedback here too. So actually, as you move these things around, you can actually see all sorts of different settings. How cool. And you even have a battery charging port opening here. And you can see your current charge state, which is all available here, of course. And down here you have a ashtray. Huh. Remarkable, ashtray in a modern car. And up top you have a stopwatch as part of the Sport Chrono Pack, which I think it is still an option for this car, but it shouldn't be too costly to spec up, I imagine. And over here, on this car, it is unfortunately a panel, but you can option this to be a secondary screen just for the passenger. You have electric seats on both sides with memory functionality. They're heated, these seats are also heated, and you have lots of lighting, ambient lighting around the place. It does certainly look the business, but if you're a Porsche driver, your biggest concern will be the driving experience itself. And it starts with this steering wheel, which is very much a Porsche item. It feels like a Porsche item, and we've been reassured many, many times over that this car will drive like a Porsche. Now, as I said earlier, the Taycan is a very important car for Porsche, not only because this car is its first all-electric vehicle, but the Porsche Taycan is also representative of what Porsche wants to do in the future. They are determined to maintain that very Porsche appeal in terms of drive, in terms of brand, in terms of product, even though there is a new generation powertrain in this. In the future, as there are more and more zero emissions vehicles, there may be more electric Porsches in the future, and if there are, they will be based on sort of the template that's been set by the Taycan. So talking about price, very briefly, the Taycan range starts at 725,000 ringgit for the Taycan 4S, which comes with 407 kilometers of range, before it bumps up to the Porsche Taycan Turbo, which is the one we're in now, which comes in at 999,000 ringgit, and then it tops out at the Taycan Turbo S, which is over a million ringgit, a little bit over a million ringgit. Now, in terms of positioning, that actually puts the Taycan below the Panamera, which is one of Porsche's more popular models in this country. Without a doubt, given the fact that these cars can be charged at home over a period of about 7-ish hours, if I'm not mistaken, by a home wall box, that means that the Taycan will probably be a genuine option for people looking at the Panamera. Those who are interested in being early adopters into the electric mobility wave can actually consider the Porsche Taycan as a genuine alternative to a Panamera. Talking to Porsche executives, it's very clear that this will probably not be an owner's primary vehicle. This will probably be a secondary vehicle, or the car that they use every day, not necessarily on the weekends. And to that end, it certainly packs a very interesting punch. We don't know and we can't get out of SIMW Auto Performance what their sales figures are for this car, but given the pricing, they are confident that they will sell what they've committed to the principal, to Porsche in Stuttgart, based on roughly how many that they can sell. They're very tight-lipped about the figures, they're very tight-lipped about their targets, but they're confident that they'll be able to sell them. And frankly, looking at the way this car is, yeah man, I have no doubt in my mind that they'll be able to sell this car pretty well. Anyway, we're certainly looking forward to actually having a first drive in the Taycan to experience what electric mobility feels like on the road, out in public, what is charging like, what's traveling like in the new Taycan. And we certainly enjoy bringing this content to you, so we look forward to having more experiences with the Taycan and bringing you more videos in the future. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.